I welcome all of you and our esteemed guest speakers in today's fifth Saturday series of virtual webinar on career opportunities in food science and technology. Today we have with us Dr. Rakhindra Gupta, our very own alumni from Institute of Chemical Technology. Dr. Rakhindra graduated with bachelor's degree from LIT Nagpur, and later on he was with ICT, completed his master's from foods department. I am very proudly saying that Rakhindra and me have spent time together in laboratory. We have worked together, and I feel very fortunate that I have discussed so many innovative things. And I remember from that time itself, Rakhindra was like very curious, and he used to always ask a lot of questions. He used to always dig out. He used to never, I remember, Rakhindra, you never did things just like that. As a part of your very own research, you always digged and went into depth of the problem. And I think that very one quality of digging and finding out the details of any problem and project had made you reach these heights of success. And right now it is very proud thing that after completion of your doctorate and postdoctorate from Ohio State University, USA, you are currently leading innovation department, especially converting that innovation from concept to commercialization at one of the topmost leading industry or organization, that is nothing but Abbott Nutrition. Who doesn't know Abbott? So we are so proud that you have taken out your valuable time today from your busy schedule, and you have agreed to mentor our student, especially thinking about innovation and taking innovation from concept to commercialization. But apart from that, I have seen you as a very good, kind, very helpful human being. And I remember that time itself, you had so many friends. Irrespective of the food branch itself, I remember you had friends across the different branches in institute. And I know that you also like to push yourself physically and mentally, and that's why you see you're so active and enthusiastic. That's a very good message to all of us to take care of our health. And you are a passionate life coach. I hope that in today's talk, if you can also give some quick tips on that, also few important tips. And you are a certified yoga teacher, and also you are a competitive athlete. So we are so thankful, Rakhindra, for your time, and thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, Shalini, for that very generous introduction. Kind words. You yourself are a big inspiration for all of us. So it's a good work, and we all look up to you for a lot of things. So let's get started here. We're a small group, and I want to make this interactive. So if somebody has any questions, just unmute yourself. I'll pause in between slides and when we talk about some critical things. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, and we'll make it very interactive. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
All right, so the topic of today's discussion is romancing. And that's a very interesting topic because typically we don't associate romance with innovation, but that's the way it is. And as we talk through it, you realize there was so much connectivity between a romance and innovation, and it makes it more efficient, effective, and rewarding if you adopt this approach. I'll share my experiences as well as the wisdom of being in this field for quite a few years now. Again, I'll pause, and if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and we'll talk through it. There's a disclaimer. It's self-explanatory, but important. So throughout this presentation, I want you to keep your minds out and feel everything. Okay? Use your feelings to connect with the thoughts and the experiences. So it's not about who I am, but what I aspire to become. In a world of reactants, catalyzed and reactions, be a catalyst for some. I want you to absorb that and maybe reflect on that instead of reacting. Feel that and see if it resonates with you. Reactants transform, catalysts innovate. Let it marinate. Let's move on. So maybe quickly, I don't know if Zoom has a poll function, but if you guys want to raise your hands, which of the following is true about innovation? A, B, or C? Take a few seconds here. Shalini, I'm not sure if they can vote on any of these. Do you think there is a feature where they can vote?
Yes, you should have asked me. I would have, or you can yourself create a poll. So I have made you, and there is a facility to create a poll. But you can ask them to unmute. They can unmute and answer, or they can type in the chat box.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's type in the chat box.
Yeah. Maybe you can, yeah.
So which one of these three options do you think are applicable for innovation? Right, I haven't seen any answers in the chat box. Which one is it? Mohit? B?
B.
All right, anyone else?
I would say probably all the three of them maybe contribute something other, because all of them are nearly true about innovation.
Okay. All right. What about other people? No one else. We have 2 Bs and 1 all 3. Anyone else? All right, let's talk about this. Which of the following is true about innovation? You have an idea. An idea by itself is not enough, right? All of us have ideas, all of us generate ideas, and most of those ideas never see the light of the day. But when an idea is accompanied by a commercial, meaningful execution, then there is meaning to it, right? But even if we execute it, if we don't market it, and if there is no market penetration, it will not survive the commercial environment. So combining idea with execution and market penetration gives us the ability to transform an idea into a meaningful innovation, which has market value. Now, B is also very important. It is a byproduct of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual flow. It is true, because ideas flow when everything comes together, is integrated. And option C, innovation leads to improvisation. That's exactly why it's innovation, right? So all three of these is true. So whoever answered all three is correct. And each one of these has a lot of value, as we'll talk about it in the subsequent slides. All right, so what is an idea? Let's talk about idea briefly. It either fills an existing need or a market gap or a scientific gap, or it caters to a vision far out in the future. Like, for example, take the example of Apple, right? Moving from Apple computers, desktop versions, over to iPhones. And that was the vision of a visionary who thought there was a need that he could create for a product like iPhone. So that's an idea. You know, there are multiple ways in which ideas can come to life. Key drivers of innovation. So let's talk about key drivers of innovation. I'm going to show you a couple of videos, and I want you to relate to that video and tell me, what do you think? How do you feel when you watch that video?
On a stress level, I've heard that losing a job is like a death in the family. But personally, I feel more like the people I worked with were my family and I died.
I can't afford to be unemployed. I have a house payment. I have children.
I don't know how you can live with yourself, but I'm sure that you'll find a way while the rest of us are suffering.
Did I do something wrong? I mean, is there something I can do differently here?
This is not an assessment of your productivity. You gotta try not to take this personally. Stephen, I want you to review this packet. Take it seriously. I think you're gonna find a lot of good answers in here.
I'm sure this is going to be very helpful. A packet. Thank you. Packet.
Well, anybody who ever built an empire or changed the world sat where you are right now. And it's because they sat there, they were able to do it. That's the truth.
All right, so let's take the polling option here. Type in the chat box, what did you feel when you saw this video? Anyone? All right, going once, going twice, going thrice. Anybody wants to unmute and talk about it? Yes, Somnath, very good. Yes, a fear of losing a job. So fear is the keyword there. What else? Does everyone feel the same? All right, looks like we are still waking up here. All right. Yes, risk of starting new. Santosha, the question is, what did you feel when you saw that clip? The challenge, that's interesting. Okay, what was the challenge, Nilza? Very interesting perspective. So, all right, let's keep these keywords in mind: risk, fear, and challenge. Let's watch the second clip.
I just don't understand what happened in there. That's all. Old man's crazy as a rat.
Enough out of you. Knock it off. Brooks ain't no bug. It's just institutionalized. Institutionalized. Man's been in here 50 years, Hayward. 50 years. This is all he knows. In here, he's an important man. He's an educated man. Outside, he's nothing. Just a used-up con with arthritis in both hands. Probably couldn't get a library card if he tried. You know what I'm trying to say?
Fred, I do believe you're talking.
You believe whatever you want, Floyd. But I'm telling you, these walls are funny. First you hate them, then you get used to them. Enough time passes, you get so you depend on them. That's institutionalized.
You can never get like that.
Oh, yeah? Say that when you've been here as long as Brooks has.
Goddamn right. They send you here for life. That's exactly what they take. Part that counts anyway.
All right, so quickly, what was the key message in the second clip? Anyone caught any keywords? Anyone felt anything? A presumption and belief about someone. That's interesting. Anyone else? That's an interesting perspective, Santosha. Anyone else? All right, so we'll move on. There are some really interesting things that I've seen here in the chat box. Let's talk about that as we move further into our discussion.
On a stress level, I've heard.
I just don't understand what happened in there, that's all.
All right, so what is innovation? How do we enable innovation, right? So we talk about diversity of both internal elements as well as the external elements. You create enough diversity internally and externally, you generate a flow. A flow can then be integrated, and integration leads to innovation. If you have any questions, you can always unmute and talk about them. If there is any doubt, you want to discuss anything, you want any clarification. But diversity is a very important tool in generating a free flow. It eliminates blockages, dead spots. Once you have the flow, a very diverse flow, with your experience and intuition, you can integrate it. Integration leads to innovation. Now, the thing outside the box you see, the circle, is romance. How does romance enable this flow of innovation? Romance creates diversity. It's instrumental in creating opportunities that create diversity. When you feel good about something, you take up that activity, don't you? And you pursue it. So if you keep romancing it, you're generating and keeping your interest in that activity. The more number of activities you pursue, the more number of activities you romance with, the diverse your skill set will become. By virtue of that, romance generates flow. It gives you the composure and poise to be able to integrate that diversity into a flow of thoughts, which with a common composed mind, you can integrate. That leads to innovation. So what does diversity enable? From the video clips, we saw it breaks institutionalization, right? In the second clip, we saw how being at a certain spot and doing certain things over and over again creates a wall around us. That is, for the most part, what we live in the society today, right? We see that mechanistic element that is created around us, and we think within the four walls of the society. By enabling diversity, we actually break institutionalization. Diversity also gives us the experience in a multitude of situations that helps us eliminate fear. It, by same virtue, imparts confidence. And all of it creates experience, which feeds back into the same loop, thereby empowering us further and enabling innovation. All right, let's move on. So what is the innovation framework? There are two types, internal and external. We talked about these briefly. Let's go into a little more detail as we talk about these. The internal framework consists of four integral elements. Right? Over time, we become comfortable taking risks if we condition ourselves properly. The second element is extremely important. It's the union of the opposites, intuition and counterintuition, logic and counter-logic. How many times have you come across a situation where you paused and said, wait a second, that sounds very counterintuitive, but that doesn't seem logical? Well, with enough diversity, with romancing, we actually expose ourselves to situations which develop these four elements, cultivate these four elements in us. A very important component of internal intuition. The third is ability to let go. Very critical, very crucial. If we say that I have a really good idea and we hold on to it, then it's very dangerous. Sometimes we have to let go of the ideas when we have already initiated them. They are somewhere in the commercial process. We can't afford to have attachments when it comes to innovation. And we cannot just generate one idea and say our life depends on it. Keep generating ideas, find the ones that work, eliminate the ones that don't. Also, it's very crucial to let them go at the right moment. I'm not sure if you have heard about the word boondoggles, but that is something which is technically feasible. Commercially, it's a dud. It will not work commercially. At some point in our lives, we end up working on projects which seem to be very promising technically, but have commercially no value at that point in time. You can, of course, come back and revisit them, but they're not of pertinent importance. The fourth element is become an entrepreneur. It's very crucial. And let's watch this clip.
Dark sauce. What a pleasant surprise. This morning's full of surprises, Leonidas.
We've been tricked. A few hundred. This is a surprise.
Silence. We heard Sparta was on the warpath. And we were eager to join forces.
If it is blood you seek,
you're welcome to join us. But you bring only this handful of soldiers against Xerxes? You see, I was wrong to expect Sparta's commitment to at least match our own.
Doesn't it? You, there. What is your profession?
I'm a potter. And you, Arcadian, what is your profession?
Sculptor, sir. You?
Blacksmith.
Spartans! What is your profession? friend. I brought more soldiers than you did.
So let's pause here for a minute and go back to our chatting poll. What did you feel when you saw this clip? And how does it relate to becoming an entrepreneur? Which side would you rather be on? The left side, where everyone is a soldier, or the right side? So type in your responses in the chat box. Yeah, very nice, Shalini. Mohit, yes, great. Anyone else? Yes, Pradeep. You can unmute yourself, Pradeep, if you have something to say. Diversity in a group, so not great.
So, however, this diversity might not be a good thing in considering the soldiers kind of an issue. Maybe a sculptor and other professions may not be as good as the soldier itself, but as such, diversity can help in providing new ideas as such.
Right, that's a good thought. The key message that I wanted to communicate, and if you start feeling there is an employee element to it, and then there is an entrepreneurial element to it, right? So if you look at an entrepreneur standing together with 300 other entrepreneurs, right? There is one leader and everyone with him is equally capable, right? And that's what entrepreneurs do. They mold themselves in a very strong environment, a commercial environment, a research environment, and they integrate everything together, right? To get a bird's eye view as well as an insight, a deeper insight into individual functions, so that they have the right framework to survive, execute, innovate, and whatnot, right? Versus if you're an employee and working just for a paycheck without the passion, but only circumstantial exposure to situations like this, then your survival is at stake. And that ties back into what we saw in the previous clips, where people are struggling to save their job. They're afraid and they panic. If you're an entrepreneur, you can be let go tomorrow and you will create something new the next day. So it helps you get rid of your fear if you become an entrepreneur. It also enables innovation by the same rationalization. So let's move on to the external factors. Meaningful network, wingmen. Now, if you look at the clip, those 300 soldiers on the left side was a part of the meaningful network, the wingmen who stand by each other and create an impenetrable wall. And they're there for each other, and together they win. In today's life, we actually lack a lot of those elements. We lack wingmen who will stand by us and make us stronger together. So collaborate, not compete, is a very critical message, because we have to ward off weather of many storms which are coming our way. That emphasizes the importance of teamwork. Now, wingmen could be a part of your team or could be not a part of your team. So that's why team is called out separately, because you could be a part of an organization where you're working with a team. A very capable, sharp, smart team with a very diverse experience, exposure, and capability is very, very crucial, right? And the third element is customers, clients. Your innovation depends on your relationship with customers and clients, the influence that you can have on them and the influence that they have on you. So it's a two-way street. So there's a three very critical external factors which govern how innovation will be shaped. Right? So we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship, and I know there were a few questions and concerns about how to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody could be an entrepreneur. And so there is a need to dive deeper into what entrepreneurship is, right? Let's talk about personal entrepreneurship. You can either start an organization. Now, given that not everybody would be inclined to start their own organization or would have the resources or means to start their own organization, you could freelance. You will still be an entrepreneur. You could give your skills to people who need it as a freelancer, and by virtue of that, make a living, increase your exposure, diversify your portfolio, and become more capable. And the second is organizational entrepreneurship, which a lot of people don't talk about. But instead of just being an employee, you can be an entrepreneur within your own organization. And that requires deep thought because it's a mindset shift. Traditionally, we have considered organizations to be a place where we'll be employed and will work. But it requires a shift in the framework, the way we think, to actually process this and enable ourselves as entrepreneurs within the organization, right? So if you look at personal, freelancing, and organizational, these are much more manageable and more attractive options to begin with while you transition into maybe starting your own organization. So what can help? What can help you in becoming an entrepreneur, in innovating better? So some of the do's. Compassion, very crucial. Empathy and emotional intelligence. These two tie together. You got to be empathetic. You got to have emotional intelligence. Transparency, very crucial. Physical and mental diversity, right? This is within yourself. I'm talking about internal physical and mental diversity, which means you're physically very capable of doing things. A walk is no longer sufficient, right? If you're pushing yourself for mental excellence, why would you short out on physical excellence? It's one of the most important and integral components of your survival. And it's very crucial for innovation that people don't realize. Learn from nature. Spend a lot of time in nature. There is not a single thing in science that is separated from nature. Every single thing we know about science, math, every single thing follows the laws of nature. So there is tremendous potential for us to learn from nature. Laugh and play, very crucial. Feedback, oftentimes we neglect feedback, especially the critical feedback that comes along our way. Sometimes it's just good to pause, absorb, and reflect on it without reacting. But just the way we are programmed by institutionalization, we are immediately trained to defend ourselves when we get feedback. And oftentimes feedback loses its value when we start reacting and defending ourselves. So take the feedback, absorb it, and thank the person for giving the feedback. Awareness, very crucial. Without awareness, nothing exists. We'll just keep doing the same things over and over again without refinement if you're not aware. And innovation thrives on awareness because awareness is a very crucial element of developing that intuition. Right? And you've seen 3 movie clips in this presentation. There is a message there. Watch movies with a purpose. Somebody else has already done the work for you. Utilize that effort to your advantage. Watch movies with a purpose. What are the don'ts? Politics, absolutely no. Throw it out. It's stressful. It has long-term implications. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Throw it out right now. Gossips, another thing you can do without. I know we are all humans. At some point, we tend to gossip. Try to minimize it. Emotional reactions, one of the biggest hurdles in critical analytical thinking. And feeling the situation is your emotion. Try to overpower your emotions with emotional intelligence, with empathy, with compassion, and with awareness. Grit without romance. This is another interesting one. In the modern society, we are bombarded with a lot of things which show that stay there, show that grit, and things will happen. You know, we take great pride in this. But what we don't understand is grit without romance is a recipe for disaster. We've seen so many examples of this. One recent example was a couple of my friends who decided to pursue a marathon, the goal of a marathon, and they started training. They had never run in their life, but they wanted to accomplish that in 6 months. So they pushed themselves, even though their bodies were saying no. Their mind was tired. Their systems were not conditioned for a marathon. They kept doing it. They made it to the marathon, and both of them ended up taking medications around 20 miles. One of them fainted, could not finish the marathon. The second one barely made it through the finish line, and they never ran again. They showed the grit, but the romance was lacking. They met with a disaster. Grit without romance creates adversity for everything that follows. So pause and reflect every time you have to push yourself through a situation. Find romance in that situation and see if you can feel the situation and if you're prepared to go all the way. It's okay to take a break. Silos, switches. Again, something that I've been seeing more and more often, because we are expanding so much in terms of what we do, the progress, so many different things going on. Organizations have grown really, really big. We have so many different things to take care of in education, in our daily lives. We start categorizing things. We start talking about work-life balance. We start talking about things which hinder the flow of innovation. I'm going to work 9 to 5. After 5, I'm going to flip the switch off and no more work. And we'll come to that, why that's dangerous. But try not to do that. Innovation is a byproduct of living your life innovatively. There's no differentiation between work innovation and innovation outside work. They're both tied in together. And there is a deep connection between those two. If you live your life in a certain way, things will flow. Bucket list. This is another interesting one. Don't have bucket lists, because then we just touch the surface of something and we never really get an understanding of that or how we feel while pursuing that activity. So if you have something to do, make sure you do justice with it. Insecurities. Don't be insecure. If you have one idea and you're afraid that somebody else will steal that idea, there's something wrong. There's a problem. Don't be insecure about things. Find that confidence, that comfort, that privilege that you're alive and you have more resources than most other people in the world. There's no point in being insecure about it. Don't be confused. It's better to be wrong than be confused. Take a decision, rationalize it, and move forward. Don't be confused. Don't confuse others. That's the biggest hindrance, one of the biggest hindrances in innovation. Do justice with it. Don't be confused. And don't start a family unless you're ready for it. Again, I'll let you interpret this situation, but you need to connect with this, reflect on this, think about it, and then do what is the best for you. Innovation obstacles. Fear, stagnation or inertia, comfort, institutionalization, lack of vision, ambition. Do these feel familiar to you? Do these sound familiar to you? We saw a few of these in the first two clips that we watched, right? You can relate to the fear of losing a job. You can relate to the stagnation, inertia of being at a job for a very long time and gradually getting comfortable being there in that position by virtue of institutionalization. That you get into a school at the age of 3 or 4, you complete your schooling by the time you get to 25, 26, then you start working for an organization, have a family, you provide for your family. At 58, 60 years old, you retire. And that's the end of it, right? Lack of vision and ambition ties in beautifully with this. So be aware of these things. These are some of the hindrances in innovating. Ambition is of a very high importance. Breaking institutionalization. Take all the knowledge. You had a wonderful opportunity from an amazing institution. Take that knowledge, break the walls of institutionalization, and sky's the limit. So I'll give you a few seconds to read through this. Each line is a message. Feel it, relate to it, and if you have any questions, let's talk about it. Yeah, thank you for the comment, Shalini. And I want to reiterate the last one, romance strategically, because I know we've heard that chase excellence and success will follow. Don't chase success. Don't chase anything. If you romance strategically, excellence and success both will follow in that order. Chasing something creates undesirable conditions. So avoid chasing things. And then the last one, when we are constantly innovating in life, we develop an eye for innovation. Innovation becomes natural. Innovation becomes entertainment. So let it be so. I'll give you guys a couple of more seconds here. Then we'll move on. So I wish you all the best in romancing innovation. And this is one of my photos when I was romancing innovation at one of the conferences. All right, if you have any questions, I would love to talk to you about it. Please unmute your mics and we can discuss.
Hello, sir. I just wanted to just know your opinion. Like, we often see some innovations not work out, and they are often told to be ahead of time, kind of a thing. So what is your take on such a statement like innovation? Innovation is meant to be ahead of time, like it is therefore innovator. So what is your take on such a statement?
Well, so you have to understand that, when we talk about innovations, we are talking as scientists, but there is a commercial perspective to it. Companies often have to prioritize what they want to launch in the market. And innovations have an NPV, net present value. If the market is not mature for a particular innovation, there is a high risk of that innovation getting into the market and not performing well. And if you are the first player, you might have the advantage of first to market, but if the market is not ready, you might end up investing a lot of money in trying to make the innovation work, right? And a lot of times innovations are also driven by other products in the market which support that innovation. So if those products are not ready in the market, then the innovation is designed to or positioned to fail. So in that case, a lot of times companies keep the innovation or thought in their pipeline and execute on that innovation when the time is right. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I have one question. So in one of your slide, you said that innovation should be part of our life. You cannot say that 9 to 5 I'm going to work, and then after 5 I'm going to do this or that. So while living our day-to-day life, one should be inculcating those thoughts or conditioning our mind in such a way that we become innovative, or innovation becomes part of our life. So can you give some tips wherein in the initial stage we start thinking, or maybe some example, how can we make our environment or surrounding conducive with innovative thoughts, or so that we become overall innovative in every small thing that we do in our day-to-day life?
Yes, yeah, Shalini, that's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up, because I can actually draw a parallel to what you mentioned with our discussions in the Munna canteen. Right? I don't know if you remember those, but you, me, Rajesh, and a few others, we used to just sit in there and brainstorm and generate ideas. And we have this wonderful opportunity of being and working with the most basic necessity of life, which is food. So we are surrounded by food. We are in contact with food several times a day in our personal lives. And we talk about innovation in the food industry, which is separate from our contact with food. We are missing out on that opportunity. So, let's suppose somebody has a family, or somebody has colleagues, friends, roommates in the dorm. You're eating food. You could talk about food in a very different way. And that's what romancing is, right? You're not talking about generating revenues. You're not talking about creating a business model. You're just casually relating to food and how it plays a role in our lives and what kind of opportunities it can generate based on what exists today in the market, based on what the general sentiment is around you. Because you're a researcher, but you're also a consumer, and you're in contact with so many different people. And so that opportunity is very valuable. It doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be structured. That intimacy with food can generate so many ideas and so many opportunities, only if we care to be aware of those. So just awareness and relating to food in a different way, and integrating what we do as a part of our studies or job in the food industry to what we live in our daily lives, that creates a lot of opportunities.
Wow, that's really very nice answer. Thank you so much, Rakhindra. Today, Dr. Rajesh is not with us, but I do remember that how we used to spend a lot of time brainstorming in just having a cup of tea in Munna canteen, or just having a Maggie there, and then how we used to, talk, ask question, brainstorm, and think out of the box. So that's a very, very relevant question. I have another question. You said, entrepreneurship, one can become entrepreneurship, but many times we see that, we have a great fear and we don't want to start, we don't want to take the risks in life. So what can really make us to take that risk? And that's what I see, at least in India, or our students when they complete their graduation, very few take that risk and start their own entrepreneurship. Okay, so what can be done in this case, so that because they have a very good theoretical knowledge and everything, but the risk taking ability, why every individual doesn't become entrepreneur, and they just want to go into the comfort zone while working in the other places? So can you just give us a little insights or wisdom, so that we can break that barrier of fear, or break that wall of whatever that comfort zone we want to come out? So please.
Yes, yeah, and again, a very relevant question, Shalini. Um, Entrepreneurship, for some reason, people have this in their mind that entrepreneurship is really big. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to have a $1 billion enterprise. That's not true at all. And entrepreneurship starts with 1 grain of salt, right? If you know how to put that salt to the right use. So if you have an idea, let's say, start building up on that idea. You don't have to become an entrepreneur overnight. Entrepreneurship is a state of mind. Cultivate it, incubate it, let it grow. And when the time is right, it will sprout. But you have to create those right conditions. So you have to start thinking like an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur never just thinks about a product or a concept, right? The entrepreneur goes on to integrate that concept into a commercial model, tests the feasibility of that. That person is aware of where the market is going, who are the competitors, what are the opportunities. Maybe does a little bit of an official cost assessment, plays around with it. And when a model is ready, there are so many people, so many resources who are in the industry who are so knowledgeable. I mean, UICT has such a powerful network of people. Organize a business competition. I know in the past we used to do that. And invite these people to judge that competition, give feedback, attract some seed entrepreneurs, venture capitalists. If they buy into the idea, great. If they don't, refine it, find out the loopholes. People go on Shark Tank just to see what's wrong with their product and also to get free marketing. It's prime time marketing for their product. And a lot of times their sales go through the roof after they appear on the show, even if they don't get any investor. So you can become an entrepreneur with a very little amount of money and with absolutely no resources. That's what entrepreneurs do. They create resources. They create opportunities. And it's a slow process if you have never done it before. But it's a very rewarding process because it grows you not only as a scientist, but also as a person.
Wow, excellent. There is few more questions in the chat box that I would like to take. What do you mean by this? Question is from Achint Sardana. Can you explain about collaborate but not compete?
Yes. So, think about competition as, hey, I know something about this. This is really important and helpful for me. I'm going to hide it from everyone else and I'm going to win this. Versus collaboration is together we are going to win, make a bigger impact, and everyone will be successful. Because in the short run, you might win the battle, but think about the war. It's said you might win the battle, but you might lose the war. And collaboration enables you to win that war. And again, I'll go back to that clip you watched, right? The 300 soldiers, each one of them equally capable to be an entrepreneur, a fierce soldier. But if they don't stand together facing the enemy, they will fall apart. So standing together, sharing knowledge, sharing information, sharing resources makes us all stronger together versus us competing against each other for resources, for recognition, for all those things. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. There is one more question from Mohit. Are you a self-entrepreneur or an organizational entrepreneur? In one of your slides, you said, yeah.
Yes. So I started looking into organizational entrepreneurship and started growing that way. So that was the start of my journey. And then I slowly started off into developing my own entrepreneurship. And so I'm still in that process, but it has been a rewarding experience. You have to find what works for you as a self-entrepreneur, right? So I probably won't get into the production part of the entrepreneurship, but like I said, right, you can freelance, you can be a consultant, you can do a lot of different things as an entrepreneur. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a product. You could be an entrepreneur with service.
Wow, that's such a wonderful answer. Dr. Rakhindra, I have one more question. So to start or to become an entrepreneur, do you recommend to take any professional training or to undergo management courses? So right now there are so many courses like MBA or business management and so many other relevant courses. So do you recommend such kind of courses, or the one who has a passion, do you think it is not needed? One can just start the entrepreneurship.
I would say expose yourself to as many opportunities as possible. A formal education does not necessarily mean that it will open up the doors for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs don't wait for those kind of things. True entrepreneurs are really entrepreneurs who start integrating different aspects of a business when they're students or when they're not students, when they're working for an organization, say, for example, or some people don't even go to school, right? But entrepreneurship is common sense. So is research. Scientific research has so much common sense involved in it. And if we eliminate the common sense part, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. So integrating all those aspects is very crucial. Start integrating things, start looking at your research from a very commercial perspective. And I think that's one of the challenges that I'm seeing these days is so many research articles that come for review, they lack commercial relevance. They might be technically very interesting, but commercially there is absolutely no value in them. And that's one way to start looking at academic research or industrial research, is how can we make it more relevant by thinking like an entrepreneur, by thinking like an innovator.
Wow, what an excellent and very, very different perspective. I have heard about entrepreneurship, lectures, classes, but this, the one that you spoke about, was a very, very different perspective, and in a different way, how, you know, romancing innovation can make you entrepreneur. So if any of the audiences have questions, they can unmute themselves and can ask right away here and here itself, or they can type their questions in the chat box. So it was such a wonderful session, Dr. Rockin. It's really a very, very different way and perspective. We never think about, you know, such a simple things. Innovation, like one can be innovative while thinking in our day-to-day life, and then taking risk. It's not that difficult, but as you said, the external factors, there are so many external factors and environmental conditions that keeps affecting on us. As you said, you know, we have to decide, like in a setup, like at least in the Indian context, if I look, you know, it's a very, very pre-decided setup that one would, you know, complete the graduation or maybe then post-graduation, and then after that take a job, and then after taking a job start a family, and then retire. So this is like a pre-decided setup one has to follow, and if somebody is not following, there is so much of pressure from the society or the environmental factors again, and then we you know fall prey to such things, and that's how, you know, that fear, you know, keeps hampering and does not allow. But yes, those who always think out of that box, would start and would do everything differently. So this is a very inspiring and encouraging topics or thought you have given. So I'm really thankful to you for such a innovative ideas you have given to us in today's talk. Despite of your busy schedule, you have tried to take out more than 1 hour. You have been talking to us. It's been so nice and wonderful. It's really very, very helpful. Our audiences are also saying in the comment box that they have really benefited a lot. Very helpful session, very true, so important points and things you have given us. Very, very different perspective through this presentation.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words, Shalini. It was a pleasure being here. So really appreciate that. And it was a pleasure talking to everyone. Thank you for engaging in our two-way conversation. I hope you learned something today, and it was more of a discussion than anything else. So feel free to reach out via LinkedIn, and I'll be very happy to connect.
Yes, thank you, students. Despite being it so early morning, with the passion and dedication, you have come here to listen to these very important talks. So thank you to all of you being here today and making this session very, very interactive. And thank you for asking beautiful questions and making it again more interesting. Thank you, Dr. Rakhindra, once again. Thank you, students.